Welcome back to Just MS News. I'm Justin Loizos. This week's headlines had a little bit of everything, and even one story where the headline genuinely made me smile touched on something you don't hear a lot about: myelin repair. It's exciting. There was also a major treatment approval in Europe for a group of people with progressive MS who are often left waiting for better options. And beyond the bigger treatment headlines, there were stories about fatigue, balance, cognition, blood testing, and what it means to keep trying to understand MS in a more complete way. So, this week's recap is not just about one breakthrough or one headline. It's about the mix of things that matter to the community: hope, caution, daily life, research, and the slow work of progress. So, as always, this is not medical advice. It is a weekly news recap from the perspective of someone living with MS, trying to sort through what may matter, what needs more evidence, and what's worth keeping an eye on. So, let's start off with the story that made me smile. The first story is exciting because it's about one of the biggest questions in MS research: myelin repair. And I want to be careful with the wording right away. PTD 802 is not an approved MS treatment. It has not been proven to repair myelin in people yet, but it is still worth paying attention to. Most MS treatments we hear about are focused on reducing inflammation, preventing relapses, or slowing disease activity, and those things matter. But for the many people living with MS, especially people dealing with progression or long-term disability, the bigger hope is repair. That is why PTD 802 caught my attention this week. Pheno Therapeutics announced that the US FDA has cleared the investigational new drug application for PTD 802, an experimental oral therapy being studied for remyelination. That means the company can now move forward with the first in-human clinical trial in the United States. Neurology Live notes the FDA clearance allows a U.S. patent phase 1 study in healthy volunteers to assess safety, tolerability, and pharmacokinetics, with no human efficacy data available yet. So it is early, but it's meaningful. PTD 802 is described as a selective GPR17 antagonist. Neurology Live explains that targeting GPR17 may help remove an inhibitory checkpoint on oligodendrocyte precursor differentiation, potentially supporting the body's own remyelination process inside demyelinated CNS lesions. In plain language, researchers are studying whether PTD 802 can help immature repair cells become myelin-producing cells. This has not been proven to repair myelin in people. The hope comes from preclinical research, including mouse models of demyelination, where blocking GPR17 has been linked to enhanced remyelination. PTD 802 is now moving into human testing to first answer basic safety questions. I will include links to the preclinical study along with the article links in the show notes. This is why this story matters. The headline is not, "We have a repair treatment." The headline is, "A therapy designed around myelin repair is now moving into human testing." For the MS community, that is worth paying attention to. The next story comes from Scientific Reports, in an open access study by Julian Ottersbach and colleagues, looking at whether light therapy glasses could help reduce MS-related fatigue. Fatigue is one of the most common and frustrating symptoms of MS. It can affect work, social life, exercise, and even basic daily planning, so even small, practical interventions are worth paying attention to. In this exploratory crossover study, researchers tested blue-enriched bright light therapy glasses in 20 people with MS who had significant fatigue. Participants used the glasses for 20 minutes daily after waking. The study compared blue-enriched bright light glasses with dim red light glasses. Both interventions were linked with reductions in fatigue, but blue light showed a clinically significant reduction on day 6 and stronger immediate reductions on visual fatigue ratings. Participants also reported greater comfort, improved well-being, and reduced fatigue with the blue light glasses. Side effects were low and subjective sleep quality was not affected, but this was still early evidence. The study was small, with only 20 participants. The authors described it as exploratory. So the takeaway is not that light therapy glasses are a proven MS fatigue treatment. The takeaway is that it may be a practical, low-burden intervention worth studying further. For people living with MS fatigue, that matters, because fatigue can be one of the hardest symptoms to explain, measure, or manage. The next story comes from MS Australia, looking at early high-efficacy treatment in children with MS. Childhood onset MS is rare, but it can be highly active. MS Australia explains that children with MS can experience more frequent relapses and more inflammatory disease activity than adults, which makes early treatment decisions especially important. The article discusses a study of 277 people whose MS began before age 18. Researchers compared people who started highly active therapies during childhood between ages 12 and 17 with people who started similar treatment later between ages 20 and 22. The main findings were that earlier treatment group had less disability accumulation over time. The PubMed abstract puts the takeaway clearly. Starting high efficacy monoclonal antibiotic therapy in childhood was associated with more favorable long-term disability outcomes compared with delaying treatment until adulthood. But this also needs careful wording. This was not a randomized clinical trial. It cannot prove that every child with MS should automatically receive the same treatment approach. Long-term safety monitoring is also especially important when treating begins at a young age. Still, the study raises an important question for families, clinicians, and health systems. If childhood MS is often more active, could delaying access to highly effective treatment have long-term consequences? So the takeaway is not that there is one simple answer for every child. The takeaway is that early access, careful monitoring, and individualized treatment decisions may matter a great deal in predicting MS. The third story is about blood-based NFL testing and how it could change the way MS is monitored. NFL stands for neurofilament light chain. It is a protein that can be released when nerve fibers are injured. In MS, that matters because nerve injuries and axonal damage are part of what doctors are trying to detect and track over time. Technology Networks published a piece looking at Roche Diagnostics' NFL assay, a blood-based test designed to help identify neuroinflammation in adults with relapsing remitting MS. The key idea is not that this replaces MRI. It does not. The article explains that the test is intended to be used alongside clinical exams, imaging, and other laboratory evaluations. But because it is blood-based, it could potentially give doctors another way to monitor disease activity more frequently between MRI scans. That could matter for patients because MRI is useful, but it is not always easy, fast, or affordable, and accessible. Some people deal with long wait times, travel barriers, claustrophobia, or simply the burden of repeated scans. But again, this also needs careful wording. NFL is not specific to MS. It's a general marker of neuroaxonal damage, which means elevated levels can be seen in other neurological conditions or injuries too. Interpretation also has to account for things like age, comorbidities, and the testing platform being used. So the takeaway is this: NFL is not an MS-only marker and it does not replace MRI, but blood-based testing could become a useful companion tool, one that helps make MS monitoring more frequent, more accessible, and potentially more responsive. The final story comes from the National MS Society's Momentum magazine, from the community section, featuring Candice Meinza, and her experience as an MS researcher who also lives with MS. After several research and treatment stories, I wanted to end with this one because it brings the human side of MS research back into focus. The article looks at how living with MS shaped Candace McInnes's path into research, and also having both perspectives as a patient and as a researcher can change the way someone thinks about the work that matters, because MS research is not just about the lab results, trial designs, MRI scans, or regulatory approvals. Those things are all important, but the questions that matter most often come from lived experience: fatigue, mobility, uncertainty, progression, access, daily function, and even quality of life. When people living with MS are part of the research, advocacy, and decision making, the work can become more connected to real life. This is not a treatment update. This is an important community story. It's about someone turning their MS experience into a path that may help others. And after a week of stories about remyelination, progressive MS, blood testing, pediatric treatment, and fatigue, this feels like the right place to end, with the reminder that MS community is not just waiting for progress. People in the community are helping to shape it. So thank you for tuning in, and thank you for being a part of the community. I mean, it's even if you just have to be, right? So I appreciate you supporting. If you're watching on YouTube, like, and anything that else helps support, comment, it's all good. And it's a new channel, so I really appreciate it. And here we go. So hope you're doing well, and thank you very much. All of the links are available in the show notes. And if you have any comments or stories you would like featured, just let me know. Leave a comment or send me an email.